Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the course of communication skills. This is lecture number 22 and the topic of today's discussion is how to prepare for a job interview. Dear students, I'm your teacher Muhammad Asif Khan, lecturer, Department of English, Cohort University of Science and Technology. Starting from the outline of today's lecture, the first point which we are going to discuss in this very lecture is how to prepare for an interview. After that, we will look at the main elements of preparation for a job interview, in which the most important thing is to study the job description. And after that, we have to research on the company and the role or the job being offered by that company for which you are applying, and it will be followed by the common interview questions that are often being asked in any type of interview. After that, we will study that how practice of the verbal communication and the body language affect our interviews. And this important step is to conduct mock interviews, because with these practices we can perform better in our actual interviews. Here I will tell you one important step that will show your seriousness toward getting that job, and it will have a very impressive impression on the interviewers. And that is that you should have printed hard copies of your resume. After that, I will tell you the important step that you should prepare your travel arrangements before time so that you arrive well in time at the location where you are going to appear in an interview. And finally, I will tell you that how you present yourself in an interview, and that is often being reported as sell yourself or selling oneself. So these are the important points. Let's start from how to prepare for an interview. So preparing for interview, basically it means that you take time to think attentively about the four important aspects which are the basic elements of any interview. And the first is that what are your goals and what are your qualifications. On the other side, we have the position or the job being offered by any company or any organization. And the other important element of this communication is the employer. So we have to look at the relationship between the goals and the qualification of the interviewee and the position being offered by the employer and the behavior of that employer. So in totality, if you are having the understanding of all these elements, it gives us overall preparation for interview. So to accomplish this, the most important duty of an interview is to perform research on all these aspects which I mentioned above. So the most important thing is that you should research the company and carefully review the job description to understand why you would be a good fit for that job. So now let's look at this very aspect in the detail, and let's look at the steps to prepare for an interview, and we will look at how the element of looking at the job description helps us in preparation of an interview. We see that if an interviewee use the advertisement as a guide, he will get all the information about that very job, because any ad of the job has the complete information about that position. For example, job ad describes the qualification of the required person. It also highlights the qualities and the background required in an employee, or a job ad provides us all the information about the needs or the ideal candidate for whom employer is looking for. The more you can align yourself with these details being provided in the advertisement, the more the employer will be able to see that you are qualified and suitable choice for this job or position. So the job description may also provide you the ideas regarding the questions the employer or the boss or the company may inquire during the interview. So before your interview, you should have a good understanding of why you are interested in this job. The second important aspect is that you should have a good knowledge of why you are qualified for this job. So you should be prepared to explain your interest in the opportunity, and you should be able to describe this very thing that you are the best person for this role. And you have to give reason for this, that why you are the best person for this job. So the job description or the ad describes those very qualities which are required in an employee or for which the employer is looking for. So very important step in the preparation for an interview is to look at the job description. Then comes that you should research on the company and the role for which they are appointing that very person. So researching the company you are applying to is an important part for preparation of an interview. So dear student, it's really important to research about the company. So what you are going to research when you are evaluating or when you are gathering information about that company, you have to study the product or the service that the company is offering. It is important to learn all about the products or the services the company produces or promotes or provides. You don't necessarily need to understand each and every simple detail, but you should have a basic understanding of the main product or the services the company is offering. After that, research the role you will have in the company. Make sure that you understand all the requirements and responsibilities that you have to perform in the company. And the third important element that you have to research when you are researching on the company or your role, that is the company culture. It is basically knowing the working relationship of the employer and the employees. So knowing that your values that are similar or that align with the company, it ensures a happy professional life for an employee. If you research these very things, if you research the product and the services, if you research the role you have to play or you have in the company, and you have sufficient information about the company culture, it will give you an edge over the other participants. And it will help you to provide context for your interview conversations. It will also help you to prepare thoughtful questions for your interviewers, and it will help you to remain relaxed, calm within your interview, and you will be in a better position to explain your ideas to your interviewer. So it will be very beneficial if you research all these aspects before going to appear in the interview. Now we will look at some of the common interview questions which we can deduce from the research we do on the company, and we get the hints of these very questions when we study the job description, because job description also provides us ideas regarding the questions which we can expect from the employers. Here I am listing some of the important questions for you, but it won't be possible that anyone predict every question that will be asked in an interview, and there are few common questions which an interviewer can plan and he can prepare the answers for them. So these questions are some of the common questions which I listed here. And the first question is introduce yourself. And here I will bound you that you should answer these very questions very swiftly, like who you are and what you do and what you want. So these are very important. When you are being asked about to introduce yourself, you should very quickly and you should very swiftly answer this very question, and you should have sufficient information about yourself. After that, some other important questions are like, why do you want to work here? You have to give justification that why you are interested. And in the same way, you can expect a question like this, that what interests you about this role? After that, we have questions like, tell us your greatest strengths, and tell us about your weaknesses. These are very important questions, because from these statements or from these very answers, the interviewer judges basic strengths and weaknesses of your personality. And after that, you can expect questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? From these very questions, the interviewers judge your ambitions in your life. After that, you can also expect questions like, what do you know about our company? And this very thing tells or explains the concept that you have done research about the company. We can expect questions like, how well do you handle change? Or how much you have the quality of adaptability in the new situations. So another important question that is commonly expected, that do you work well under the pressure? Because most of the time when you have to meet the deadlines, you have to work in pressure situations, and if you are good to handle such type of situations, your employer will be very happy to see such type of gentleman who can handle the pressure situations. So these are the common expected questions which we have. In the end, I will give you another important question, interview question, and that is, how do you make important decisions? And one of the important skill in any human being is the skill of decision making. If you are good at this very skill, then you can contribute as a good productive part of your company. So it is not necessary that you will confront these type of questions in the same way, but you should listen the questions carefully, because the same question will be asked in a cover up or in a mass, or wording of the questions may be different, but the meanings will be same. So you should prepare answers for these questions in such a way that your answers suit multiple situations, and when you are answering any question, you can make it a suitable reply for another question. So these are some of the important questions which we discussed here. Now let's look at some other aspects of the body of an interview. And when interviewer is inquiring from you about your personality, in the same way you can ask some questions from your interviewers. And I will suggest you that you should prepare to discuss these very things. Like most important component of this very relation is that you are giving your services to the company, and in reward or as a result you are getting salary from your company. So either the employer will ask you that what salary expectations you are having, or even you can ask about the salary you are expecting from them. So here you should prepare to discuss your salary expectations, whether they ask you or whether you yourself start this very discussion. You should prepare for this. And if you are unsure about what salary is appropriate to ask for the position you are applying to, I will suggest you that you visit salary calculator, and you should get free advice from there, because these salary calculators tell you about the pay range, and that is based on basically your location and the industry in which you are applying, and the experience you are having. So all these factors are being analyzed, and then The salary calculator gives you a rough idea of the salary which you can expect from your employer. So that is a very important aspect. So you should discuss this very thing with your employer when you are there in the interview, because it is one of the important discussions. Other questions which you can ask from your employer or from your interviewer are like, what does a typical day look like for a person in this position? And the other questions which you can ask, like, what qualities do your most successful employees have? It means that what qualities you are expecting in your employee. So prepare several thoughtful questions for the interviewers. Like I have told you, these are two examples. And the reason for preparing several thoughtful questions for the interviewer is that many employees, they feel confident about the candidates who ask thoughtful questions about the company and the position. So you can end up the discussion session, the session in which you are asking the questions from the interviewer with I have really enjoyed learning more about this opportunity. What are the next steps in the hiring process? Now let's move toward the practice of verbal communication and the body language. It is important to make a positive and lasting impression during the interview process, because we see that interviewee can make lasting impression during interview by practicing a confident, strong speaking voice and friendly, open body language. From this, I mean that there are two important elements in an interview, and the first one is your verbal communication. For that, you have to be very confident and you have to adopt a strong speaking voice. So that will provide one aspect of your communication, and the other one is body language. So you should show very friendly and very relaxed and open body language. So these two elements together make a lasting impression during interview. So you should practice these two aspects. The first one is your verbal communication or your voice, and the second thing is you should practice your body language. So if you want that these might come naturally to you, you have to spend time performing these skills. And I will suggest you that you perform these very things before your trusted friends and your family members, or even you can practice this very thing in front of a mirror. If you pay special attention to your smile, your handshake, your strides, I tell you that it will have a long-lasting, permanent impression. So as I told you that you practice interview at your home. So one step ahead of this is that you conduct a mock interview. And interview is like public speaking. So I will advise you to practice your interviews. If you practice your interviews, it is the best way to relieve your tension, to ease your anxiety, and it will improve your confidence level. Sometimes this very process of conducting mock interviews, it might be boring and tiresome process, but I guarantee you that if you are repetitively experiencing the interview process, you will be more comfortable when you will be in the real situation, and it will give you the right feeling or right notion of an interview, and you will perform outstandingly in front of your interviewer. If you don't have another person, you should practice your questions and answers loudly, and you will see that only this practice, it will give you that confidence that when you will be in the real situation and you will be sitting in front of your interviewer, you will feel 100 times better than that person who hasn't prepared or practiced his questions and answers. One another reason that you should practice your questions and answers loudly is that when you are practicing this very thing, you will find that an answer that sounds awkward, or it does not convey what you wish when it is spoken. So this gives you an opportunity to refine your answers and to commit them to your memory. So the more you repeat your interview, the more confident you will be during the real thing. So dear students, one another suggestion which I will give you to prepare for a job interview is that you should print hard copies of your resume. So how many copies you need? You should print 3 copies to be provided for interviewers and 1 copy for yourself so that you can follow along with them. So why I'm suggesting you that you should print these very copies? Because it shows that you are prepared for this interview, this job. And the second thing which is being depicted when you provide them these hard copies, that you are an organized person. Here, one another suggestion which I want to give you is that you should read over your resume and rehearse explanations of for any gaps that may appear or any other oddities that may appear in your resume. So you should prepare suitable answers and suitable justifications for these very gaps and oddities which you have in your resume. For example, if you have switched careers or you have some gaps in your professional life, you should have answers for these very questions, that why you switched your career and why you left the last job. So you should handle these very things in such a way that you remain honest when you are describing your answer, and you should handle this very thing diplomatically. So it is important to be honest and diplomatic in addressing the questions which appear awkward in your resume. For that specific day or the day before that interview, I will suggest you that you should prepare your travel arrangements. Leave earlier from your home or where you are staying. Give a few extra minutes to yourself to reach that location where you are going to be interviewed, so that small obstacles may not make you late. For example, when you will be traveling towards your destiny, you can face heavy traffic. Even you can come across minor accidents, and sometimes we see that there are parking issues. You have a bike or a vehicle, but you don't have a parking area near the vicinity where you are going to appear in the interview, then it becomes really very awkward that you don't have time to search for a right parking place, and on the other side you don't have time left for your interview. Even sometimes we have trouble in finding the building, so it is very necessary that you leave earlier and give a few extra minutes to yourself. So if you will arrive earlier, it will be very beneficial for you, because you can use this very time to go over your notes, and even you can mentally prepare yourself for the interview. So it's very necessary that you leave earlier. Other suggestions are like that you should save the information, interviewers' contact information. Even if you have time, you should search the location in advance, that you may not have a problem on the day of the interview. When you are appearing in the interview, at that time, you are selling yourself, because some of the experts says that an interview is like selling yourself. But we see that majority of the people are not comfortable with this very idea. It doesn't mean when you are accurately or positively presenting yourself, you have the feel that as if you are selling yourself. Actually, this is like that you have some professional skills and you have experience in your life that may set up you apart from other applicants. So it is not like that, but somehow we can say that it is like as if you are selling your skills or your experience. So when you prepare for the job interview, you should make note of the skills that are related to the role you are applying for. And the second thing is that you may think of how your experience and abilities can contribute to the overall improvement or achieving the objectives of the department and the company you are going to be a part of that. So you should prepare these very things, that these are my skills, and in this way it will be beneficial for the overall role of the company. In the same way, here I will suggest you that you should keep your answer short, and you should only share the positive and relevant information during your interview. Instead of giving very detailed answers, you should choose the most positive and relevant information to share during your interview. It will be very beneficial if you have records to show your accomplishment, or if you have any data where you can share your growth during the previous roles you have already performed. That will be a great help in selling yourself during the interview. But so don't be modest when you are sharing your achievements or accomplishment during interview. Your potential employer, he wants to know that you will be the right person for this very job. So you should not be modest, and you should not be that much humble that you remain hiding your accomplishment before your interviewer. So you should be very frank when you are describing or sharing your accomplishments and your skills which you have, and the achievements or the success you did in your previous roles. So these are the important features which you should cover when you are there in an interview, because here you have to sell your skills and services. After that, I will suggest you that you should follow up after the interview. It's very necessary that after your interview you should prepare to follow up with the employer. If you are doing so, it reminds the employer of your conversations, and it shows your employer that you are genuinely you are really interested in this very position. It also gives you opportunity to bring up those very points which you left to mention during your interview. Here I will suggest you that you should craft a follow-up note and include all these details. It will be really beneficial, and it will add a great impact on your employer. Here I am closing this lecture, but before that I will tell you that in today's lecture we studied that what are the important elements of an interview. After that I told you about the steps to prepare for interview, and the first step is to analyze the job description. After that we discussed that how research on the company and the role you have to perform is beneficial in preparation of interview. Then I gave you a list of common interview questions. We also discussed that what is the role of verbal communication and the body language in preparation of interview. And we also covered this very aspect, that how mock interviews are helpful in improving the performance level of an interviewee. And in the end we studied that how we can sell ourselves, and I added some other tips like what should we do before one day of the interview, and what are the steps which we should take on the day of our interview that can make our job interview a success. So all these aspects are being discussed in this very lecture. I hope that now you will be having sufficient information about preparing a job interview. So thank you very much for listening passionately. See you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.